Good morning. It is Thursday, March the 14th, and this is The Drill. So thank you very much. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States of America today, because I'm the only one that makes the presumption for the status quo. I was listening to a little bit of Glenn Beck this morning on the radio, and he was talking about Venezuela, and he was doing some kind of a vignette, I guess. Storytelling. But anyways, he's doing this little vignette where he's basically telling a story of an average Venezuelan, and he says in the story that that this Venezuelan used to be well-fed, was perhaps a little overweight, that they would go to various restaurants and they could go places and buy things and get things, and now today you are a bag of bones. Your bones stick out like false teeth or something of that nature. Very dramatic. And one of the things that it tells me again is, number one, the glorification of the left by people that are supposed to be conservative, and dramatizing this point, making socialism seem as though it is a big bad wolf when really it amounts to nothing. Venezuela goes to show what I've always contended, that socialism is about the people that are out of power gaining power, period. But once they gain power, socialists don't know what to do because their philosophy is silent about governance, about how to govern a country. And that's why it inevitably fails. You look at what a lot of the things that are going on in the state of California today, where we have a very left-wing government that has taken power, and they've taken power, but they really don't know what to do. Marx was silent on how to govern. Marx said that socialism would eventually take over the world, that there would be this big revolution by socialists to overthrow capitalism, that there would be some sort of a world government for a while, and then that government would somehow wither away and people would be left to deal with each other one-on-one. So basically it would devolve into anarchy, or a benevolent anarchy situation. But he doesn't say how this is going to happen. Nowhere does Marx or anyone else say this is the way you should govern once you get into power. All they say is, you're out of power, and this is what you should do and what you should say and how you should act to get into power. It's the same thing with Saul Alinsky, with his rules for radicals, that he goes ahead and explains to people, and he calls it the haves and the have-nots, and how it is that the have-nots can become the haves. Now, with the other issue with what Glenn Beck is doing here is that he's basically making the point that socialism is, in a kind of clumsy way, that socialism is a bad thing. Okay, well, fine. The real question is not, is socialism a good thing or a bad thing? Because you can point to every socialist country in the world has been a failure to one degree or another. Again, because the philosophy is silent on how to govern. It's great philosophy to follow if you're trying to get into power, but lousy philosophy to follow once you're in power. What he should have been doing in Venezuela is finding out, and with any other government for that matter, but let's stick with Venezuela, is figuring out how did they get here? That's the question. How did Venezuela go from being one of the richest countries in South America to the economic basket case it is today? How did it get there? Why is it that an entire population went ahead and decided to commit economic suicide? What happened and how? The hints we have is from people that used to live in Venezuela, journalists, that say that the way that the left went about it was by corrupting the culture of Venezuela. That's the way they started it. And that's what I contend with this purpose of my podcast, is to show that that's exactly the thing that's happening in the United States of America, that the left has been perverting our culture, because the left knows and understands that without a supporting culture, capitalism cannot thrive. Okay? And that same thing goes for socialism, for that matter. If it doesn't have the proper culture, you can't have a socialist government. So that's what needs to be addressed in this particular country. That's what this country could learn from Venezuela. What tactics and techniques did Hugo Chavez and his fellow revolutionaries use to gain and maintain power? Particularly just to gain it, actually. Hugo Chavez, by the way, I read in, I believe it was Wikipedia, that he actually tried to stage a coup. He was in the army, the Venezuelan army, and he tried to stage a coup and was arrested and put in prison for a period of time. And then he ran for office and was elected. So again, this is another situation where it's one thing to overthrow the government if you're going to do it by a revolution. It's another thing entirely if the people go ahead and voluntarily vote you into office. Again, that's a sign of a population that is trying to commit economic suicide. And in this particular case, they're doing a pretty good job of it. But this is also the point is with Glenn Beck, like most of the right-wing pundits in this country, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity et al., he's not doing a good job. He's not doing a good job as a conservative. He's not acting conservative. He's not helping his listeners to defeat socialism and to defeat it within their midst. Because that's the way that socialism in this country is going to be defeated, is locally. Every person being able to defeat those socialists within their own social circles, whether it's parents, children, family members, co-workers, or people that you're going to meet at the soccer field, etc. That's the way that you're going to end up defeating socialism. And the socialists have certain tactics and techniques that I've been over in the over 400 episodes that I have broadcast and will continue to touch on. But a lot of what they're using is psychological and psychologistic techniques. They used to be more force-oriented. They wanted to use physical force. But somewhere along the line, the left in this country realized that if they really want to get into power and stay there, that they have to lay the groundwork. They have to get the population psychologically ready to basically do what the Venezuelans did, which is vote socialism into power. Look what happened with in New York in that one district in which Representative Cortez ran as a Democrat, but said that she flat out, I'm a socialist. And she was elected anyhow. And I'm willing to bet, since no politician is elected strictly along party lines, that means that she got Republican votes, and I'm sure a number of votes from conservatives. That's what's scary. That's what indicates that there's a change or shift in the culture. And again, what I'm on about is that if you think and act like a socialist, sooner or later, you're going to vote like a socialist. Remember that. So until next time, that brings us to the conclusion of another episode of The Drill. And until next time, thank you very much for listening and have a great day.